Hello and welcome, everyone. It is time to enter the Kumite. This is not a sport. I repeat, this is not a sport.
And this is not a podcast.
I'm joined today by my friend and fellow colleague, Daniel Caballero,
Thank you, sir.
and our technical engineer, the 940 Ninja himself, Sean Myers. To- Today we will be discussing UFC Fight Night Brunson versus Holland, Vegas 22,
Great
otherwise
card,
known as
great
ESPN 21. Apparently they're doing the double names now.
Luckily, there
so.
wasn't a DQ on this card, so I'm happy to go
Right.
a weekend without one.
I was kind of worried about there being like a curse put on the UFC, you know.
Maybe there is.
Bring down
We're gonna
their
have
ratings.
to see how the next few, because 2 in a row is something, man. But this one made it without, so happy about that.
Okay. If you enjoy the content we're creating, make sure to like, share, subscribe. Don't be afraid to hit that little bell icon either. That way you can stay up to date with the latest Kumite gossip. All right, so coming into UFC Fight Night, Brunson versus Holland, we're going to take a couple stops on the prelims cards. These are the guys and girls that are trying to make a name for themselves and putting it all on the line to, get up there. Okay, so what do we have to say about Trevin Giles versus Roman Dolidze?
There was a lot to be said about it, man. I think Roman was just holding him down. He had a lot of ground control. He was winning on the ground. However, Giles was winning up top. It's pretty difficult as a judge to score that. But what do you think your takes are on the difference between the two? The two fighters and their styles and what they excel at.
So, in this fight, I was questioning how the fight was being scored because it could be scored either way depending on the observer. Roman Dolidze had a lot of ground control time. He had good takedowns. He had some flashy kicks. I think Roman's kicking game is great. I think he needs to work on his boxing. But Giles was catching him on the feet. And there was one point in the fight where there's a couple points in the fight where Dolidze was threatening leg locks, knee bars, heel hooks. He was doing all of them, and he was switching between them.
Just showing off his jiu-jitsu.
And Giles was threatened by that. Giles did not want to be there, and he was constantly having to fight from being finished. However, during this time, Giles was also landing some pretty good shots, some hammer fists, some punches while defending these leg locks. I didn't know who was winning because neither of them are on top. One is threatening a submission while the other is, racking up strikes.
Now, I think you probably need to think of that as a judge. You have to score about the whole fight. You can't score as one specific thing. I know in recent podcasts we discussed a lot about like judges judging a fight based on control and how there's a lot of fighters, especially in the stand-up game, that will fight on their back foot going in for the counter.
Yeah.
Now with something like this where they're on the ground versus being up in the air, I don't think Roman did enough on his feet to say that he contributed on that side of the fight. However, Giles was still doing damage. He was still throwing strikes while on the ground. So even though Roman was leading the fight on the ground, Giles was still taking some throws. Mm-hmm. He was still delivering on a lot of these, which added to his points.
Yeah, I personally scored Giles winning that fight, but I remember feeling sympathetic for Dolidze because he was very confused on how he lost that fight, and there are certain judges that would have scored him to win that fight. I do believe that.
Do you question the scorecards as far as like, is there a specific round that stands out to you that maybe the judges probably should not have scored it that way?
I don't know specifically how the judges, like which rounds the judges scored, in favor of one or the other. Mm-hmm. Well, all we know is the total of the score. There might be a way that I
think you can definitely look up the
judges'
scorecards as far as like
post-fight.
28, 27.
Okay. Well, if there was one that was confusing me, it was specifically round 2 where Giles was constantly having to fight off these submissions, but he was landing strikes. I personally didn't know how I scored that one. I don't know how the judges scored it, but I don't know. There's something to be said there. There's a conversation to be had between judges and commissions to really try to cement in the rules as much as possible.
It is definitely a matter of your sports commission, depending on where you're fighting. They are in Nevada, which I think has some of the loosest ones. That's where the UFC has had its home.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think we can blame it all on commission. I don't think we can blame it all on judges either. They're
I'm definitely not
job.
blaming anybody.
Of course, but
it's
I
just
do think that
confusing.
the sport itself has a lot of room, a lot of space, and a lot of time to evolve. When it comes to its scoring, when it comes to its rules, all those aspects.
Mm-hmm. I would like to see them kind of bring a uniform feel to the rules as much as possible, instead of states deciding arbitrarily that you can do this, but you can't do that. I don't know. For the most part, they've gotten rid of a lot of those really state-specific rules.
Well, hopefully, the sport, or I'm sorry, it's not a sport.
It's okay. That's just our tagline.
It is. The events, hopefully they get better and better and better.
Right.
I do want to move on to Grant Dawson versus Leonardo Santos.
Well, I really just... It's not very often that you see a last-second finish. And by a last-second finish, I mean 4 minutes and 59 seconds of round number 3 in a fight that I scored him to be losing. Grant Dawson scores a knockout in one of the most...
Just another example of you can't bet on these fighters. Anything could happen. It's free game in that ring. You just got to get caught that one time. This isn't the first time that it's happened, though. I believe twice before we've seen last-second finishes. If I'm not, is it Demetrius Johnson or Anthony Johnson?
It was Demetrius Johnson versus Kyoji Horibuchi. Yeah, he scored a final second submission to Kyoji. It was quite exciting.
That one I feel like I would be more upset about, to have known that I could have just lasted one more second.
Right. The other one was Chan Sung Jung versus La Pantera, the Yair Rodriguez, the crazy elbow.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Put his lights out.
And it was the last second of the fight, too.
You don't see that very often. So while Dawson was providing a pretty good performance over Santos, it's amazing to see him come out with a victory after that.
It was a close fight. I was personally scoring Dawson to be losing that fight. And I could tell at the last few seconds, they were kind of in that, I'm going to kick your legs and try to throw punches. I'm going to try to up kick you position, where the ref decides if they want to stand him up or not. But I could tell Santos thought the fight was about to be over. And it was about to be over, but he let his guard down for that little bit and got caught on the chin with a big one.
Got fed up right at the last second. Just reminds me, I remember seeing a football play where no one around him, just going in the end zone, and he drops the ball showing off before he touches the end zone. Can't remember what team, what player, whoever, but that's funny. Last second stuff, man. But to get into the main card, let's talk about Tia Tuivasa and his fight.
Tia Tuivasa, man, he's butchering all these names today.
Is that not how you say it?
Tai Tuivasa.
Tai Tuivasa.
Yeah, Bam.
I literally said that like 3 times before we started this, and you never corrected me. I'm going to blame James on that one.
Yeah, he's going to blame me on that one, guys.
Tell me about this fight, though.
So what's to say about this fight? Tai came out there very aggressive, and it worked every step of the way. I'm talking some calf kicks that took the base out from underneath this heavyweight. You don't see that every day. That is a lot of power. But
it's really good for a heavyweight to be able to throw those kicks. And if you take what little base a heavyweight has, that weight can go anywhere,
Yeah. It's good to see Tai kind of bounce back. There's a lot of Australian fighters coming out now, and he's their heavyweight. He's their prospect. I don't see him, really competing with the top heavyweights, but I think he's a fun addition to the heavyweight edition. But after a first round knockout, Tai Tuivasa, very well known for doing the shoey. It's like an Australian thing where you get a shoe and you fill it with beer and you drink it out of an old shoe.
I've always wondered, is that like the shoe that they're wearing at any point in time, or is
typically, yes. Typically.
I respect. I drink beer, but I mean, I like mine cold and from a glass, man.
I thought it was so funny that the promos went into Kevin Holland's shoe collection. He said he has over 75 pairs of shoes. You know, after a victory like that, tied to Ivasa's eyeball in Kevin Holland's closet.
Sure,
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Okay, moving on. We are going to be talking about Adrien Yanez versus Gustavo Lopez. This is actually one of my favorite fights on the card. I'm going to have to go back and rewatch it again. But what can I say about Adrien Yanez, man? The counter game, strong. His pull to left hook, it caught Lopez so many times. And, you know, he seems like he's easily hittable because he has his hands up and he's within your range. But he wants you to throw so he can counter you. And you could see early on, Lopez was going for those. He was going for those big shots. And by the end of it, he was definitely very wary to throw anything because he just kept getting countered time after time.
When you're automatically just going for those big shots, you're gonna open yourself up.
Yeah.
And when you're someone like Yanez who's just waiting for that and they're giving it to you, that's a free and just a fun fight to be in.
Yeah, he tempts you to want to swing at him so he can make you pay for it. He kind of reminds me of a young Lyoto Machida.
Lyoto Machida, he definitely is out of his prime, but he's still doing a lot of good things like that, and I'm excited to see another man, kind of fill those shoes.
Yeah, I mean, I just kept thinking of it like, it kept going through my head, like Lopez is walking into the wood chipper. And that's exactly what they used to say about Machida back in the day.
Yeah.
You know, you push forward, you're walking right into the chip, get ready to be taken, like breaking down.
Again, one of those fighters that just fights on his back foot, coming off of it and going.
That's the thing, though. Counters. He was pushing forward a lot.
Yeah.
He was pushing forward, getting into a space, and then pull countering, then slip counter. It was really beautiful. The only thing I will say about Yanez is in the future against some higher ranked opponents, which Lopez was he's a top tier fighter. However, I do see the high chin and I do see the calf kick vulnerability for Yanez in his future. That could pose a problem. Longer reach opponents are going to give him problems, and strong jabs I feel are going to be his biggest weaknesses. Strong jabs, calf kicks. If someone has a longer reach, he won't be able to do some of those counter games that he was doing against Lopez. Lopez was tough as nails, and really all that does is further the impressiveness of Yanez.
Yeah. 100%.
Okay, let's talk about Shannon Bays versus Montserrat Conejo.
So tell me about this fight. I know there's a lot to talk about, of course.
There's a lot to talk about. First off, Shannon Bays and JP Bays are husband and wife. They fought on the same card. Shannon actually earlier in this on the fight card was in her husband JP's corner, and then after he lost, she said, "That's not going to bother me. I'm coming in for my fight today."
Yeah.
However, she did lose via 3-round headlock. Yeah, I said that.
So tell me, what happened for these 3 rounds?
No, literally that. Look at me. Literally, it was 3 rounds, elementary school style headlock. That's how Conejo won that fight.
That sounds like a great way to win the fight.
She's 10-1. She's a strong Mexican prospect. She only had 1 week to prepare for this fight. I do have to say that. But I was getting furious by the end of that fight just watching the highest level of fighter lose to a headlock. It drove me crazy that it kept working because Shannon Bays kept trying to go back to her jiu-jitsu, grab a hook, figure for a leg, and it just wasn't working. Because Conejo was so strong, she just kept being able to walk out with her hips and keep her right there in that side saddle headlock position. What can I say? At the end of the day, Shannon Bays didn't make the correct adjustments to prevent that from happening. I feel like she should have fought more in the clinch and stopped trying to take her back. And I disagreed. Excuse me. I disagree with her coaches on just playing patient and then trying to take her back because they told her to keep doing that was a solid game plan, but all she was doing was losing seconds, losing minutes of this fight. I don't know. It kind of got under my skin just because I wanted, to watch, high technique and the fight game. But I know Dana White had a stroke after that fight because he does not like uneventful things like that. But see, it's in a position where she could go to sleep at any point. So, is the ref going to stand them up, or is he going to let them sit in this headlock position?
That is very true.
That's a future consideration.
A headlock like that, there's control, of course. There is the matter of how long they're able to stay in that position. However, how detrimental is it to the fighter? How much are they actually like controlling compared to, like, at one point in time, will that not be enough?
I think Shannon Bays, if she wanted the fight to get stood up, she should have just stayed there instead of trying to fight back out of it, because there wasn't really anything going on. Canello wasn't able to really let go and throw any big punches or anything, because as soon as she let go from a side saddle position like that, she's going to be able to get up or take her back. Like, I don't know. I would prefer if they stood it up from a position like that, but at the same time, there's some people who sit in full guard for the whole fight.
There is.
And they're at least trying to pass, and the ref doesn't stand them up.
I've seen jiu-jitsu fights within the UFC. It happens. So as long as both fighters are still, putting up a fight, then I'm sure that they can keep it going. It is something to be said that she needs definitely to work on her takedown defense. 4 out of 5 of her Cunyejo's takedowns was completed. She took her down easily.
But it was a judo throw. So it's not just like takedown defense. It's like, that's basic clinch work. Like, fight for the underhook. Have a powerful overhook. Like, stop letting her headlock you and then make her hips perpendicular to yours and then flip you over. It just kept happening. It's like, make an adjustment, quit going for the jiu-jitsu back, like the back take. Like, it wasn't working. I against some certain fighters that would work, and that is an advised technique to counter a headlock, side saddle, bulldog choke position like that. But
there's only so much you can do.
Yeah.
And while it was a good fight, it definitely
wasn't a good fight. It was not an entertaining fight.
It was not an entertaining fight.
But I am interested to see what both of these ladies have to do in their future, because Shannon Bays looked really clean on the feet. Great counter striking, great footwork, long limbs. She is a good prospect for the division. And Cunyejo, I didn't see too much of her grappling other than her headlock, but she's strong. And you can see it. She was much stronger than Bays. Very physically imposing opponent. And she's tough as nails. You can see that. She got caught with a few clean ones, and she took it on the chin and just kept walking forward. So, I think both of these ladies have a place in this division. And we need more female talent in the UFC.
We definitely do. I'm excited to see each one of them and their careers continue. But let's go ahead and get into this co-main event. Max Griffin versus Song Kanan.
Song Kanan.
Kanan?
Yes.
That was close enough.
So Max Griffin wins via first round TKO. I really want my boy Kanan to pull out in this. It's really good to see Chinese prospects come over. It's not very often. A lot of them are fighting in ONE FC and other European championships and things like that. But Song Kanan, he is a veteran, and I felt like if the striking was a technical exchange and it stayed like that, Song Kanan would have definitely won the fight. But Max Griffin had his wrestling threat, and he made it a brawl, and that brawl ended up he ended up walking away with the victory because of it. I thought his post-fight was a little disrespectful. It just seemed that way. Maybe I'm, misreading the situation.
I don't believe I saw the post-fight.
Because Song Kanan is such a nice guy. How can you knock someone out and then, like, it just seemed like he was making fun of him. Maybe it's just his...
Well, you're also just complaining about it not being an entertaining fight, with Cunyejo. So maybe that's what Max Griffin's trying to do. He's trying to bring some entertainment.
People up, yeah.
That's what Dana wants in this promotion is he needs people to sell tickets. He needs people that are going to bring
charisma,
fans to the stands, much like our main event fighter Kevin Holland.
That was a good transition, yeah.
Yes.
So Derek Brunson and Kevin Holland, my pick was correct. My heart wanted Kevin Holland to win this fight. He's so fun. He's so creative. He's a comic in there.
He's a great personality to see within the UFC.
He's someone who posts up Like, what are you gonna do? And then gives compliments.
Like, you don't see that. Like, you see the shit talking side of that from Nick and Nate Diaz. You know, you'll see them lay down on the floor and, you know, be like, "Come at me, man," but you won't. They won't say, you know, tell you a joke right after that. They'll just be like, "Hey," or "I'm gonna beat you up."
Yeah.
Aggressive, you know.
Yeah.
But something like Kevin Holland, he's the one that's like, "Hey, that was a good shot."
That was a good one. Oh wow,
That
you're
was
really good at this wrestling thing.
However, being
Pumping up
that
his
kind of
enemy's ego.
personality, of course, but being that kind of personality, it also, I feel, takes away from not only your intensity, because we've seen players come in like Conor McGregor. They get in your mind, you know. They stare you down and make you think you're crazy.
Make
you
you feel like you don't belong.
Make you think that you can't beat them. If they get in your head, you know, that's something to be said for. Now, while Brunson isn't doing that, Kevin Holland is giving people an image of like, I'm just a little kid that wants to have some fun in the fight. Not saying that he's a little kid or anything. I don't even know how old is he.
I believe he's 28.
28. Okay.
He's still young.
I'm right below him. I'm the kid to him, but still, you know, like it definitely it doesn't intimidate. It almost, I would have a feel of confidence if I walked into a ring with someone who's joking around.
Especially if you're winning.
Especially if you're winning while in the fight and they're still joking around. If they're not even paying attention, in between fights, he was talking to Khabib. You're a fighter, man. You're supposed to be a professional. Like we say, this isn't a sport. You're going into a ring to hurt somebody, and they're trying to hurt you as well.
Yeah.
It's, if he was winning, I would have felt like it was the most boss thing ever.
Yeah.
Now that's
true.
That's the contradiction.
That's true.
Because if you're winning a fight and you're also having a conversation with someone outside of it,
yeah.
Like why are you even fighting this guy? Just in the match.
Yeah. So, like I said, you know, I love his attitude, but yes, you're right. It does come with drawbacks.
Mm-hmm.
How serious he takes the fight, how much he listens to his corner, how much he implements what his corner says.
Yep.
He wasn't listening to his corner. He was talking to Khabib, you know, pulling up hype. You know, I think he felt like he was going to get a late knockout because Brunson was really starting to tire. But what did he do
rely
wrong?
on those last second finishes, just like earlier in the fight, they happen.
Yeah.
Earlier in the card, they happen, but you cannot rely on them.
So, key takeaways from Holland's game and what he was doing right, what he was doing wrong. What he did right, he did a lot of things wrong. Let's start with what he did wrong. What he did wrong, he overcommitted to his strikes. He put himself outside of position. He leans away. You know, he does the Israel Adesanya, lean back to avoid those big headshots because he has long reach and he's a very long fighter. He leaves his hips open. So Brunson kept, you know, faking with the right hand and then dropping in with exposed hips and able to get easy takedowns. Now, Kevin Holland's very creative, very crafty off of his back. I mean, Imanari rolls, leg locks. Yep. He does the quirkiest things down there, and a lot of it works. But he has to work on his takedown defense, and he has to prioritize standing up rather than getting creative with his jiu-jitsu. His jiu-jitsu is good, but you're not rolling out there.
Yeah.
You're trying to finish a fight, and you only have a certain amount of time, a fixed amount of time to stop this fighter.
Rolling can take a very long time, especially if you're up against somebody good.
And
I've gone
round 4, you're sweaty.
I've gone 20 minutes never tapping anybody, you know, just because me and the guys I'm rolling with, we're just competitive enough to get out of everything, get into other positions, you know, and it's
sometimes you're down there for a while, or you just have a set time, so it's like, okay, neither of us win. You know,
and you just like up top, you can get caught with a punch. Even in jiu-jitsu, you can turn into the wrong position. You know, it's a matter of not only just knowledge of what you're doing, but being able to stay composed in these fights, being able to think clearly, and again with that personality of like, oh, I'm having a good time. I'm just here. I'm not. If you're not 100% in the fight, you're not going to be 100% thinking about how can I get out of some of these grappling exchanges.
Yeah.
How in this position can I move? Can I make myself in a better position?
Yeah.
You're not thinking about that.
So, what Holland did correct, it's kind of a double-edged sword because Holland did a really good job at not taking damage down there. There wasn't very many opportunities where Brunson could posture up and rain down damage. Holland was very good at making him reset, try to find his base. However, he ended up staying down there by doing that. So I don't know if I would call it a good thing, but it does go to show that Kevin Holland, off of his back, is very Weasley. He's very crafty.
Yes.
So he ended up surviving the fight because of that. I predicted a 4th-round arm triangle from Brunson. I thought he was eventually going to get it. He didn't. He almost did. He almost did.
I would
But
have been crazy if you would have called actually arm triangle. You know?
Holland did a fantastic job of getting out of it, answering the phone, and then waited, caught his breath, turned into him, shrimped up.
So where do you think Brunson can go from here? Do you expect an Izzy Brunson too? Or does he need to wait another time before he gets that fight?
Man, that's not a good matchup for Brunson. Then again, I can't think of anyone in the 185 that's a good matchup for Izzy.
We've seen that we can't go into 205 and be competitive.
He can.
He can be competitive, but he can't be as dominant, I should say, as he is in the 185 weight.
Yeah. No, he definitely lost that fight straight up to Blachowicz. A lot of people, certain people disagreed with me, but I had Blachowicz winning on the feet too, as well as taking him down and controlling him. But that aside, I'm not gonna bring up old ghosts.
In the past.
I think Brunson deserves a top 5, and if he doesn't get a top 5, I think he deserves a title shot. I would say him versus Whitaker rematch would be a good one. Some people were saying Costa. I think Costa would be a fantastic matchup for Brunson. That's a winnable fight for Brunson.
Very winnable to allow that setup for the Izzy 2 fight.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably what he needs. I don't think he should go up for the title shot because, I mean, how long ago did he fight Izzy?
A year ago?
A year ago? Even while that's still some time, just because of how dominant Izzy is, we can't really rely on Brunson being the one to take him out. We might see new talent come up within the next few months.
However, Brunson's been gatekeeping for a minute now, and he's been taking out some top-tier prospects.
This could be another John Jones, Anthony Johnson kind of thing, DC and Alexander Gustafsson were the only ones even able to compete with John Jones at that time. Now you might have another scenario. I mean, Izzy's trying to be the next John Jones, if not fight John Jones. That might be him in the 185 division. Who else do you see coming up and beating Izzy in 185?
185, the only one I could see would be Robert Whitaker. He has a chance. I know he lost, but he has a chance, and he's beaten everybody else.
Yeah.
And Jared Cannonier. I think Cannonier has a chance. I'm not saying they would get it done. I would pick Izzy for both of those fights, but they have a chance.
We're going to have to see what comes with that. Anything else you can say about Derek Brunson or Kevin Holland?
Dude, Brunson's a veteran now, and we're seeing that. He's growing up before our eyes. He's no longer just rushing in trying to get the knockout with his hands at his sides and his chin sky high. He did do it a couple times when he knew he hurt Holland or he got hurt himself, and then he was trying to just jump back, and when Holland was getting overconfident in his striking. He did it a couple times, but other than that, he's patient. He's composed. He knows a game plan. He knows wrestling is his strength, and he knows to try to keep his hands up. He did a lot better job at keeping his hands up and not because that was a serious issue. He's a lot of power. You could see it in the way that he moves. It's like he's jumping into someone forward, and it's scary power.
Yeah.
But I don't think Holland. There was 2 times where Holland was very close to getting knocked out. He was just a split second off, just a hair off the target from hitting it on the button and finishing Brunson off.
You can be that off. It takes that kind of precision to get some of these knockouts. So while there was a lot to say about Brunson, Holland still put up a great performance. I think there's a future behind him. I would really like to see him at least. I love the personality he brings. I love being able to see that because I like messing with people just as much as anybody.
He's fun, man. He's fun. He's a lot of fun.
When you're in there to fight, to have a good time, it's one of the best things to see that. And I love to see a man like that who has fought primarily to have a good time make it so far in the UFC. But I definitely can believe that if he wants to make it to title contender, to top 5, he needs to turn that switch on. Yeah. Whenever he's in the cage,
he has the tools.
He can do it. I 100% believe in him. I just think he needs to get a little bit more laser focus.
Yeah.
Even if it is a crack a joke here and there, do a
He
one
shouldn't
little
get rid of
mess with him once at the first round, just like Nick and Nate Diaz do, and then fight for the rest of it. Talk a little bit of shit, what's up? But he doesn't need to not be listening to his corner.
Yeah.
When he's in between rounds, he doesn't need to overdo it.
Mm-hmm.
I want the personality. I would be one to buy a ticket to his title contender. I would love to see him go further, but I just think he needs a few things to brush up.
Yeah. He definitely needs to stop being so willing to go into all these grappling exchanges. He has good grappling. He really does. His jiu-jitsu is really good. Mm-hmm. He's got to stop overcommitting on his strikes, and he's got to stop leaving his hips exposed because at least against a wrestler, because that's what they're looking for. That's what they want. They want you to lean back. They want you to overcommit so that they can dip under and take you down and hold you there.
I think him leaving his hips out, doing the lean back rather than moving out of the way probably is contributing to his personality of wanting to be. He's trying. I feel like he's trying to be another Spider Silva on top of having the jokiness of Kevin Holland.
Right.
Like that's what I see when I see him fighting. And just as we saw with Spider Silva, you can get caught while doing that. You definitely can get caught while doing that. It's not 100%. It doesn't work. And if you do it, you got to do it well.
I agree with that sentiment 100%. Yeah, I mean, Holland's he's a big prospect. He's definitely a contender. He has all the tools under his belt.
I'm excited to see where he goes.
Yeah, same.
But before we get out of here, I wanted to ask, we got another fight coming up just like we do every week, and this is going to be a big one. My man, Stipe Miocic, I love him so much. He's a firefighter from Cincinnati, is it, or Cleveland? Cleveland. He's a firefighter from Cleveland. Oh, God, I love his story, but even more, I love the story of Francis Ngannou.
Man, talk about rags to riches.
Oh, my God. He's built his way all the way up here, and I just love that he is, for the second time, showing off on an international stage for title contention.
I mean, to think Ngannou comes from sand digging in Cameroon to living in the woods, eating trash in India or Morocco, to being homeless in France, to fighting on the world's biggest stage.
It's such a turnaround, and we're not getting this because we're stalkers. This was a UFC promo, right?
Mixed Molly Whoppery. I would suggest anyone to go check it out. He also has a fantastic special on the backstory of
not
Khabib
officially
in Dagestan.
Him. We are not, related to them at any point. Just putting that disclaimer out there. But yeah, good show.
No, he's a fantastic content creator. The rematch. I mean, Stipe is also one of my boys, the greatest heavyweight of all time.
Yep.
He's won 3 times in a row. He's beaten a lot of big guys. Yep. It's still hard for me to say he's any kind of GOAT.
I think there's a lot. It's hard to call a GOAT out in the heavyweight division.
Yeah, I mean, he was the only one because the heavyweight title's been tossed around like chlamydia.
If you
he'd have been it 3 times, he's the GOAT. And slow down, everybody.
Exactly. Like, he has one more win than it's Cain Velasquez. Or there's multiples that hold a 2-title defense record. But he's the only one to ever break it and make a 3rd.
Now, I will say what kind of puts him in that GOAT status for me, is he beat DC twice. DC is a legend. Mm-hmm. Olympic bronze medalist, former light heavyweight champion, and former heavyweight top contender in, I think it was Strikeforce back in the day.
I think
go ahead.
Beat
the War Machine. I mean, he beat some top quality heavyweights back in the day as well, before he ever moved down to light heavyweight in the UFC. Mm-hmm. So Stipe definitely has my respect in that regard. Let's do picks.
I think I love Stipe. Before we do the picks, I want to say that I love Stipe merely, and I could call him the GOAT merely for the fact that he's been in contention for the heavyweight title the longest out of most heavyweight fighters I've seen. Not only has he won the 3 and holds the highest record, he's lost it, he's gotten it back, and this is already his 2nd title defense since getting the belt back, or is his 1st?
He lost it to DC. He won it from DC, defended against DC.
This is his 2nd. So he technically, under his belt, has 5 title defenses, not consecutive, but 5 title defenses. He's been in for some of the longest time on top of his come up, on top of his loss to DC. We still got to see where he can go from here, which is one reason why at this point in time, I can call him a GOAT.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely the best heavyweight we've seen thus far. I don't know why I, harp on it so much. If he beats Ngannou a second time, I'll gladly say he's the heavyweight GOAT. And he beat him the first time. I didn't expect that. I'm not going to lie. I was one of the people thinking Ngannou's about to walk in there and knock this man out cold. But Miocic, he had a game plan, and he stuck to that game plan like glue, like Gorilla Glue.
Well, then let's go ahead and let's call these picks.
All right. I got to go with Ngannou. I was wrong last time, but I feel like this time, he's more ready, he's more prepared, and he's not underestimating Stipe Miocic.
What round and how?
I would say second round TKO. Anywhere past the third round, you're going to see a drop-off in performance from Ngannou because Stipe is going to be making him work. Now, it could be first-round knockout. A piece of me also feels like it could be the first round, but I feel like Stipe is going to be able to survive. He's going to grind out. I feel like he's going to get clipped, and then he's going to grind on Ngannou for a little bit and live the round, and then Ngannou's going to finish him in a second.
I think I'm going to have to contradict yours.
Ooh,
I'm going to go with Miocic,
spicy.
And I'm going to call a decision.
That's a respectable pick right there
Now,
because Stipe last time could take him down almost at will.
My reasoning for
again?
this is Ngannou has power. If at any point in time, it's hard to call the round at this because even with him being gassed, his hands are so heavy, he can catch Stipe even in the third and just take him out clean. That is always going to be a threat Miocic is going to have to face.
Yeah.
However, I think Miocic is going to have a higher fight IQ. I think he's going to be able to work the cage a little bit better, and I think he will be able to take him down and control him more when he gets in a rough patch. Yeah. I think he's just going to be able to outfight him, not outpower him. If Ngannou wins, I expect a first-round finish.
I expect a first or second round finish from Ngannou for sure.
If it goes past half the second, I'm going to stick to my guns on Stipe because he's going to be able to have that gas tank.
And we're going to see, has Ngannou's takedown defense improved? Takedown defense and positioning when striking, has it improved to the point where he can prevent himself from being taken down? If so, if he can prevent Stipe from getting a takedown in the first 2 rounds, I don't see Stipe living to round 3.
It's going to be an interesting fight. I'm really excited to see it. UFC 261 coming next Saturday. Sorry.
Okay, guys, and with that, we will wrap up our thoughts on UFC Fight Night Vegas 22, Brunson versus Holland. I'd like to thank you, Daniel, for being here, sharing your thoughts. I'd like to thank our technical engineer, the 940 Ninja himself, Sean Myers. I would like to thank all the fighters for going up there and laying it all on the line.
Every single one of them.
So entertaining, gladiatorial combat in 2021. That's exactly what we need with everything going on right now. I'd also like to thank all of you, all of the viewers, for tuning in and entering the Kumite with us here today.
I'd also like to, this is my personal shout out, one that I never thought I'd give, but shout out to Dana White organizing, I think, UFC, I can't remember which UFC it is, but April 21st, if I'm not mistaken, their first full capacity fight since COVID. They are finally bringing it back. People can sit in the stands and yell elbow all day. To the girl who did that when I was in Dallas.
I can't wait for all the screaming drunk fans.
It's going to be great. As soon as they do come back to Dallas, I hope to go back, and I hope the elbow girl is there.
It has been nice being able to hear the corners and the coaches, so I will say that.
That is true, but I'm sure the fighters are going to be more excited whenever, Bruce Buffer yells it's time, and there's a
Right. It does add to the hype of it all. So that'll be it for today's podcast. Remember, this is not a sport. And stay gold, Pony Boy.